The Thriving Doctors Download with Lizzie Paish. A podcast for all medical professionals who want to experience greater well-being. Take a few minutes to listen, settle your mind down, and get new insight. You are not alone. Episode 7. When does your thinking get in the way? We're all thinking all the time, aren't we? But I wonder if you recognise that there are times when your thinking isn't all that noticeable, and at other times you can practically see it all swirling around in your head. Sometimes we're just living life, getting on with stuff, making decisions, with thought flowing freely and helpfully. We're not that aware of it, as if there's just the right amount to get things done. At the other extreme, we're caught up in painful, repetitive thinking, agonising over possible outcomes or past mistakes, with what seems like far too much thought in our heads, making it very hard to get anything done. Wouldn't it be great to spend more time in that first free-flowing state of mind and less time in the whirlpool of overthinking? Because, as I've said before, we're experiencing our thinking and nothing else at all times. Whatever is happening around us, the thoughts in our head, whether they're about what's happening around us or something completely different, are creating our experience in that moment. And so often, those thoughts are ones that simply get in the way of creating an experience we want. They might be creating something completely different and unwelcome as we dwell on the past or catastrophise about the future. Or they distract us from what's in front of us, making it hard for us to either give it our best attention or get satisfaction or pleasure from the present moment. It seems to most people, certainly most of the ones I've spoken to, that there's nothing we can do about our thinking. There is a grain of truth in this, in that we don't seem to have control of what thoughts pop into our head at any given moment. But we do, I think, have some power over whether we choose to focus on them, whether we latch onto them and go over and over them in our minds, adding more material to the spiral of overthinking, or whether we put our attention elsewhere. If we don't want this kind of overthinking experience, why don't we, like unwelcome spam phone calls, just hang up on those thoughts or politely tell them that we're not going to listen? The reason, I think, is twofold. 1, they look so true, and 2, they seem to need attention to change them or fix them or make them go away. But not everything we think is true. In fact, probably most of it isn't. And in order for a thought to go away, there's nothing we need to do with that particular thought. The less attention we give it, the better. Let's be clear here. There are things in life that need to be done, and when a thought about them occurs to you, you either do them or note them down to be done or start to make a plan for them. This has the flavour of that free-flowing thinking I mentioned earlier, and life seems to work okay like that. But I'm talking about a different kind of thought that I suggest you start looking out for, that probably isn't true, rather a reflection of an opinion or perspective that you hold, and therefore doesn't need anything doing about it. More thinking of this kind just builds up and gets in the way of the smooth and satisfying flow of life. Let me give you an example. A young friend of mine, early in her career, made a mistake at work. Nothing dramatic, just the usual fixable type of stuff that might cause a few problems. But then the thought occurred to her, maybe I'm just no good at this job. Given 18 months in that job, with plenty of successful outcomes, this thought does not deserve attention. And even without her background, thoughts like that still don't deserve attention. Because all that it's going to do is get in the way of doing a good job. That kind of thinking has nothing going for it. It doesn't make you do your job better. It doesn't even help you find another job because you're so down on yourself. It just makes you preoccupied and less able to deal with what's in front of you effectively. As a mum once said to me in a light bulb moment, telling myself I'm a rubbish parent doesn't make me a better parent. It just makes me feel hopeless. Judging from the many conversations I've had with clients, this kind of self-critical thought is common. It's a classic example of thinking that gets in the way. When we make a mistake, we could bat away this thought and perhaps a more helpful one might occur to us, like, how can I fix this? Or why did that happen? Or how can I make sure I don't do that again? All these, as I'm sure you can see, are actually constructive in moving forward. The other kind just get us deeper into our negative thinking. It's not surprising we've picked up this habit of thought. It's common to be told that we need to look at our mistakes in order to improve. And I find people often worry that they'll look arrogant if they don't point out or dwell on their shortcomings. Again, there's a grain of truth there. It doesn't make sense to hide your mistakes or cover them up in some way. But neither do you need to show them to everybody. And of course it can be helpful to look at what went wrong when a mistake is made. But the problem arises when we confuse that analysis of error with our own competence. I'll do it differently next time is very different from, why am I so useless? The kind of thinking that gets in the way isn't just about our own effectiveness. Any time we think we know what others will say or do and limit what we do as a result, our thinking is getting in our way. When we don't try something because we think we won't be successful, or when we try something reluctantly with the attitude of, but I know it won't work, our thinking is getting in our way then too. So my invitation today is to start to notice these two kinds of thought. You don't have to worry about what comes into your mind at any particular time. That needn't be a problem. But when you start to notice the types of thought that get in the way for what they are, you might find it easier to direct your attention elsewhere, rather than giving them a whole lot of airtime they don't deserve. If something has struck a chord with you in this episode and you'd like to find out more about my work or get in touch, visit lizziepaish.com. I'd love to connect with you.